folks. This morning I got a soap sample. This one here is from the grooming department. This is got figs, sandalwood, and musk in it. It's I've already scooped something out of there, as you can tell. It's a pretty nice scent. And it's fairly straightforward too for my nose. I'll unblock this morning. No rubber band. I have the Stirling Witch Hazel Mentholated Black Ice flavored. I'm going to be following the shave up with Bull and Bell Sandalwood aftershave. And off camera I'll be using the Maestro beard butter. This Wisemen blend. Shaver of the day. This is going to be an interesting shave. I've had this particular shaver for, I'm thinking, for about 2 years. And it's one of those that I looked at and not too sure if I ever wanted to give it a try. But this is a Auto Strop. I think this is a, what is it, I think version 2? I can't remember for sure. I tried to do a research on the patent numbers to see which one I may have. But I think this is number 2, but I'm not real sure. It is open comb. It has this particular feather blade that's also used in the one blade core, one blade, so on and so forth. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, it uses this kind of razor blades. And before you even put the blade in it, you know, it does make you wonder how much fun this is going to be to shave with. I'm going to give it a try today. We're going to see how it works out. If it doesn't work out, I'll have to just switch up to a different shaver, but I'm hoping that I'll be able to stick with it. I've got the lather whipped up over here in a small lathering bowl. It does have a little bit of a beige tint to it. It's whipped up here with a synthetic brush knot, Frank shaving. This color scheme here is pretty nice. It's a good looking brush. And the knot is, in other words, it's not 24 or 26. I think it's 22, could be wrong. But it's a smaller knot. Whips up nice. I like this size knot. To me, it's easier to work in a small bowl with a smaller knot. At least for me it is. At any rate, I already put a hot towel to the face. And I've got the Phoenix Artisan Accoutrements Preshave soap. This one here is mentholated and scented. And I've got more than 24 hours worth of growth. I'm a little bit late starting the video this morning. Decided to sleep in on a Saturday morning instead of getting up at the crack of dawn. Feel somewhat better today. Earlier this week it was very much touch and go. I had a couple of days that was just really bad in that just really wasn't feeling well. I'd have about part of the day I was kind of so-so, and then down towards the end of the day it got bad. One day I went to bed early and overslept the next morning and didn't shave that day. But today I'm feeling a lot better. I think, you know, it just, whatever I had going on with sinuses and whatnot is probably at the tail end of it. Maybe it's trying to put up its last big fight before it gives up. But anyway, I'm doing a lot better today. So already there is a little bit of growth there. Definitely more than 24 hours worth. Menthol. Great for the nose, especially one like mine. But anyway, I've seen a few people shave with these shavers. Till I get a shave or two under the belt, I don't know. It kind of reminds me of a straight razor or a shave bed, in that you're going to have to find the angle on your own. This angle is not preset for you. You're going to have to figure out what angle works best for you and maintain that angle throughout the shave. Not quite like a, oh, I guess you might say like a DE that's got a safety bar on it and it's got a, you know, cap there that you can kind of get your feel for it and be able to maintain it like that. This one here, as you can tell, does not have that. It's definitely a work of art when it comes to Auto Strop and so on and so forth. I mean, somebody put a lot of thought into this. If I'm not mistaken, I think they came out, first one, maybe patent number is what I'm thinking of, 1904 maybe, thereabouts. So in other words, it's been out for a moment. and there's different versions of it. You can see them out there on eBay. I forgot to mention the soap came from Michael. He sent me 4 samples. One of them was yesterday. So if you want to see what I used yesterday, I'll put a link from a blog. And I shaved with a Focus Evolution R21. And you see the write-up there. And I'll do one on this one too on my blog. Sometimes when it comes to on my blog when I'm doing videos, I just basically a lot of the same links that I put in the videos over there on the blog in case you're doing one or the other, but not both. This one here will have more, I guess you might say, wording to it. This smells great. This is good stuff. I've only used one other grooming department soap, and it was Elan, if I remember right. I'll put a link down below for it. It was my first one. As you can see, the kind of lather I whip up is more like on the yogurt side. Might even be considered wet. This one here is not quite as wet as I worked it a little bit longer since I'm not using a shavette. On the wet side, this one here I worked it just to pass that point where it's not quite so wet. And I'm going to see how this is going to work out. Now the blade itself I've used before in the one core, which one blade core, did a great shaver there. See how it works here. It already feels kind of like what am I getting myself into. I guess I should say besides angle, you're going to have to figure out what kind of pressure you're going to need. Oh, I know what I forgot to mention, or should have mentioned already. It's the, I believe the years for this one, 1928 to 35 maybe? That's what I'm thinking. And this is a version also, there's a version of this where the handle comes loose from the head. This handle does not come loose from the head, if that helps anybody at all. Really not too knowledgeable about this razor. Outside it does look kind of menacing. My experience with this kind of blade also, by the way, you can find these at Maggard's. I'll put a link down below for it too, if you're hunting for something like this. And these kind of blades. In the one blade core, I get 2 shaves pretty easy. Third one, you could tell that it's taken a serious dive downwards in the way of a smooth, comfortable shave. So if I was to ever strop this, I imagine I probably would be able to get some more shaves than just 3 out of, compared to the one blade core. Just something to think about, because I think a box of 10 runs you about $7.50 before shipping. So in other words, you may want to do your bulk shipping so that way you may get more bang for the buck. Some free shipping, in other words. I do try to keep everything on a budget within a particular number, dollar amount, if you will. And I've kind of mentioned this from time to time when I respond to folks. By working the budget method and sticking to it, it's not always the easiest thing to do. But because from time to time, you're going to miss out on some limited stuff. Stuff that's only made for a short period of time. Or sells out quick. However you want to look at it. And so when it comes to shavers and deals on blades or whatever the case might be, soaps, you name it, I do have a tendency to miss out on some. So sometimes, in other words, something that I really am wanting, I'll go past that budget, but to take it out of the next budget. This shaver is not the best looking shaver out there. Like I say, I got this in a box of a lot of other stuff that was dirty, not clean, taken care of or anything of the sort, and had some great finds. As a matter of fact, that's where I got my Gillette President from, and this was in that box. And in other words, I've had this for a good long while, just kind of concerned about using it. Like I say, it doesn't look like it's a friendly shaver. Say for the first pass, can't complain. It's not tugging, it's not pulling. For the most part, kind of smooth. You can feel the blade cutting through the whiskers, but that's, in other words, that's all I'm really experiencing. And it's not a, how do you say, a dramatic feel. It's just noticeable, I guess you might say. And this shaving cream, oh, I should say it's also tallow as opposed to vegan. Muhammad, he has all kinds of different soaps. In other words, if you like vegan, duck tallow, whatever the case might be, he's got several different flavors that he works with in the way of tallow or vegan or whatever the case might be. I was looking at his website and the part where it says about, and I was looking at that, and it's kind of funny. You know, he says he drinks the same, you know, the equal amounts of coffee and tea. I interpret that in a kind way, or a different way of saying a lot of caffeine. That's the way I interpret it anyway. Anyway, I thought that was pretty funny. Don't know if he meant for it to be funny, but it's, for me, I just kind of look at it that way. Alright, go for across the grain, see how this works. This does smell good. I like the idea, for me and my nose, something that's fairly straightforward. In other words, from time to time, you know, I can pick out one of the scents. And for my nose, that's really good. Because otherwise it does get to the point where me being able to pick out a particular scent, a note, with my nose, it's very complex. I'm not going to be able to pick them out most likely. And it's, you know, most of the time I like them anyway. Dirt is not one of my flavors. This particular shaver did pretty good. I mean, considering how old it is. Seems to be holding the blade in place, which it looked like it would anyway. It locks in there pretty tight. One of these days I may have to pursue to get a strop for it. See how that works out for me. I could see when you're using a strop on a blade that you'd get more shaves out of it. I could understand that. A gentleman at work happened to be out and about one day and saw at a store where they had the older version of this that fits in a case. It was, as a matter of fact, it's a steel case. It's a heavy metal case, and where the handle detaches from the head. And he picked it up for me. I think it was $7 or $8. Picked it up and got it for me. I thought that was pretty nice. It's an older version where the this part up here, if you will, is not near as big or wide as this, and it's thinner, so the blade just kind of attaches up in there, and that's all the further it goes. Kind of interesting. In other words, a little nerve-wracking for me looking at it. It's like, aye, that's scary. It is one of those shavers where I don't know what they may refer to it at, because it is very hard to see. I don't know if you can see that. There's little stop hooks, if you will, right here, or stops. Just a little piece of metal that comes up. And with that older version, if that piece is missing, I wouldn't shave with it, in other words, because that's the only thing that's holding the blade in place. outside of this up here, which you're kind of trusting that it's going to hold it and not move on you. So in other words, if you're missing a stop hook here or there on that older version, it could be kind of treacherous shaving with it. This one here is a pretty solid piece of metal. For those earlier versions, look like the metal might be a little bit thinner or more flexible, if you will, bendable. And I've seen some that have been for sale where it looks like maybe one's broken and another one looks like one is shorter than the other, even though it's bent upwards. Don't know what to think about that. Something to look for if you're out hunting for one of these and you're not real familiar. I would go with something that's maybe one that looks like this. Seems like it's a little bit more durable. I'll take it apart here at the end of the video, show you what the blade looks like and what a person has to go through just to get to the locking mechanism, if you will. A lot of thought went into it. It's kind of, you would think nowadays, with all the technology we have, some of these guys are pretty bright. Not saying, to me, the guys that back in the day that were designing this were pretty darn sharp. So I'm kind of thinking that today we should be just as equally as sharp as they are, if not more so. We couldn't come up with a nice shaver similar to this. One that comes to mind, for instance, somebody that's put a lot of thought into one, is the Rockwell 6C or S. Take your pick on which one. I haven't shaved with the stainless steel one, but you know, the other one, the C, I've shaved with it and it's a darn smooth shaver. It really is. They did a great job putting that one together. Getting those gaps, you know, stair step like they did. It's a great shaver. In other words, for the masses I could see, in other words, doing a, you know, going from a cartridge going to that would really appreciate that shaver. The Fine Marvel, that was another one that just, you know, because it already preset the angle for you. It's just that sweet spot. In other words, it's not aggressive, but it's not too terribly mild. It's right there somewhere in between where you can get an efficient, smooth, comfortable shave. That shaver there was a lot of fun to shave with. That one came to me on loan, by the way, of Randy, and I have to say that was really surprised that it shaved that smooth. Really nice shaver. This one here against the grain is going pretty well right now. I think I've found the angle and the pressure. Against the grain it's a little bit easier for me to find the pressure because the way I'm holding the shaver. Yeah, I may have to see if I can't find a strop port, one that'll work for it, and get used to learning how to use the strop. Might be a lot of fun to use, especially trying to figure out how many shaves can I get out of one of these blades. Since I've got more than one shaver that uses this blade now. There are different versions of this I mentioned. I would, if you're interested in something like this, I would go through any number of the forums and from folks that have written up on it or videos or whatever the case might be. There's some of these versions that seem to not want to hold the blade in like it should, plus loading the blade could be, in other words, more attention to it than some others. This one here is pretty easy to do. Others, you need to make sure that you load it all the way back to this pivot pin, if you will, back here, and not let it go forward, because if it goes forward, you're going to end up with a much more aggressive shave than what you're expecting. So in other words, you might be in for the eye opener of the morning if it's a morning shave. I can imagine. I wouldn't say this is an aggressive shaver. The blade feel is there, I mean, in that as it goes through the whiskers, but I wouldn't say it's aggressive. It looks aggressive. It looks like, you know, you can take off a layer of skin with this thing. Evidently, the gentlemen of the days gone by I figured out how to shave with these things, otherwise they wouldn't be able to make them for so long. Wouldn't sold as many. And this, I have to say, this is a weighty razor. It's got some weight behind it. And if you're not a fan of some razors that weigh somewhere near the 3, maybe 3.5, somewhere in there ounces, may not be the shaver for you. Matter of fact, I'll go ahead and show that right now. Alright, so I have the lever here on this side, and hopefully it will show, it will focus how it fits together, because if you pay attention right about there, there's a little notch where this bottom bar, if you will, where the comb is at. When it moves down, you can kind of see where it fits up into the plate here that holds everything in place. And what it does, it just drops down like that. And it just moved right on out of that and allows this to move up. So in other words, these little notches right here were moving right into right here. If that makes any sense. At any rate, so as you can tell, you have, I guess you might say, a flat bar or plate going on the back side and front side of the blade. And if you're familiar with this blade has some what looks like letters down through there, and it fits right through those letters. There's a couple little posts that will fit in there that kind of lock it in place, as well as this locking mechanism. I'm going to bring it down here because I don't want to slice my finger, especially on video. That'd be embarrassing. But there's a little tab that you can push on right here, and you push on that tab and it lifts this bar right here. And hopefully, if I can hold this up without cutting myself, you can kind of see the two little posts coming up right there, and another one right about here, but down there. You can see those little posts, hopefully, that are coming through the blade. And it fits in there nice and snug. It doesn't wiggle at all once I put my blade in there. And considering how old the shaver is, that's pretty sharp. That's darn good. No wiggle. You put it in there, it's in there. And I thought that was, you know, engineered from, I'm thinking, if I got this figured right on the patent, 1927 maybe? So in other words, even way back then, they did an awesome job in figuring out how to lock a blade in place. And anyhow, that's how it fits in there. I'll go ahead and lay this down. Pretty sharp. I mean, engineering wise, that's just no marvel. And as far as I can tell, no nicks, no cuts, no weepers. Soap did good in protecting me. I've shaved, like I say, I've shaved with grooming department soap before. Haven't had an issue with their soap. It's creamy. When I scooped it out of the sample and put it in the bowl, I mean, it feels nice and creamy. Matter of fact, it feels, you'd almost, it felt like a cream as opposed to a soap. Even though it's firm, but easy to scoop out. You can feel the creaminess as I was applying it through the bowl. Shave went pretty good. I could probably went back through my trouble spot right through there. Probably want, you know, just a couple, you know, real quick, like I normally do if I'm deciding to go ahead and tackle that, because it's just a quick little pick me up there, because what grows through here grows in such different directions. I saw a post on Instagram, and a gentleman had let his facial hair grow out, and as an example of what he was going through, there's a spot over here on his side of his neck jawline where you could literally see that the hair, not only did it grow in a spiral, but also the surrounding hair. You can see that the hair that was very close together was also growing in different directions. So you can imagine what it's like to have facial hair like that if you don't, and then try to shave it without irritation. It is quite a tackle to, that's a chore to do that. My little spiral over here, I've done rather well over time, but I know in the beginning, boy howdy, with the cartridge razors, it just, forever, I was weepers, it was always sore over here, it was always a hot mess. One of the reasons why I would grow a beard also, because shaving back then really did stink. It was awful. I'm alright with facial hair. I understand some folks during the summer months, aren't you hot with all that? No, I'm not hot. It didn't bother me. and it still doesn't. Facial hair doesn't bother me during the summer. If there's anything that bothers me during the winter, oddly enough, and you've seen, if you watched any westerns or anything that's been up where there's a lot of snow and whatnot, I've got a little bit of stinging down here, which is odd, right here near my Adam's apple. That's pretty rare for me. You're outside. Back when I used to do a lot of walking, I used to walk a couple of miles before I go to work, and so when I come back, and if it's there's much moisture out in the air or anything, in other words, you have icicles all over your face. Yeah. That would be the thing that kind of be off-putting for me. I didn't appreciate that too much. All that on my face. It wet, and when it just starts to thaw out and dripping, and you know, you're trying to get to work, and you got to get all that cleaned up before you can get back out the door, or whatever the case might be. Going with some witch hazel here. Now, if you aren't familiar with the mentholated witch hazel, whether you get one that's scented or unscented, be a good thing to give it a good shake before you use it. And it comes with a spout like that. And as it goes for color, it's I guess you might say a watery, milky looking color. And the effects of the menthol last for a while. I think it's mentholated to the point where, at least for me, it's not overly mentholated. It's to the point where I can feel it working for a few moments after I apply it. It's, in other words, not lightly mentholated, but not heavy. It's somewhere in between. And then to the added touch of the black ice is, to me, it's a nice little twist on the cooling effect on the face. Feels pretty good. I like it. It works for me. I understand if menthol is not your thing, or you don't appreciate that level of menthol. This one here, in other words, could, depending on your tolerance of menthol, some people can't tolerate menthol at all, which I understand. It's kind of like me and dirt. You know, some soaps have dirt scent or mud or something like that. Yeah, no. Me and my nose do not like that. Don't get along with that at all. Reason being, I think, is because I spend too much time in the dirt. I don't enjoy smelling it. This is pretty good stuff here. And the restrictor, if that's a concern, it's about that size right there. It doesn't let a whole lot out at one time. You do have to give it a few shakes to get some out. Definitely going to be smelling good today. My wife was wanting to go to Kohl's later on today, so you know I got to be smelling good. I had a good shave today. I think I'll shave with this one again, the shaver, sometime in the near future again. That worked out pretty well. Kind of surprised. It's not as bad as it looked. As menacing. At any rate, not a bad shaver. If you're interested in this sort of thing, probably should check out somebody that knows more about them than I do. That's my first time. I just started looking into them last night. Just decided I'll go ahead and give it a try. Try to shave with it. Did well. No nicks, cuts, weepers. Hey, can't complain, can you? Had a great shave this morning. Hope everybody's doing well. Stay safe and smooth shaves to you.